Hello and welcome to another MyTunes podcast right here at manxradio.com.
Marc Tyley, the nation station, Manx Radio.
It's not every day on MyTunes I get somebody in the studio who's done national service in Switzerland. Now, you may think that's a random place to start, but with Martin Brunnschweiler, it isn't, because that happened, didn't it, sir?
It did, yes. Hello, Mark.
Hello,
Yes.
Welcome to it. Well, we'll talk about that later. I just thought I'd break the ice with a national serviceman who was younger than me, but didn't do it in Britain. No, did it in Switzerland. For reasons we'll find out. Well, what an adventure. Where did this adventure start for you? Where were you born?
I was born in Lancashire. It was my father was in textiles, and that was the reason we were up in that part of the world. But we moved around the country as his job changed, so we were in Suffolk for a little while. I spent a few years just outside London in Buckinghamshire, where we were until the age of 11, and then we moved back to Lancashire, which is where I was until I left school.
So the Swiss connection is through where? Grandparents?
Yes, my father's parents. They were the Swiss. They were the proper Swiss. So my father was born in England as well, and so we've got the surname. But yeah, Swiss nationality is one of those. As they say, it's hard to get, but it's very hard to lose it as well.
Yeah. So how come? Let's talk about this then. You ended up doing national service in Switzerland. How come?
Well, I was a chef. That's what I did before I came to the Isle of Man, and I'd done that for a few years, working in different countries around the world. And I ended up working in Zurich. And the Swiss, they're very efficient, but it was a couple of days after my 19th birthday, this thing came through the post telling me to come for my medical for the national service. And I honestly thought it was a mistake. I thought they were just sort of sending something out mistakenly. And anyway, I went along for this medical, and at the end I expected to sort of explain that because I didn't speak a lot of German, and certainly Swiss German is virtually nothing like normal High German. So at the end I sort of tried to explain I think there's been a mistake, and there'd be a big problem with me not speaking much German, and they just smiled and said no problem, and they stamped my form with infantry. So that's what I had to do. 17 weeks of the basic training and everything. And I have to say I hated every minute of it.
And this presumably because you were dual national.
That's right, we are dual nationals.
Yeah.
And because our grandparents are Swiss but born in Britain. Yeah,
So
they're two countries where the nationalities can coexist.
Martin is, of course, founder of Bushy's Brewery, and we'll talk a lot about Bushy's over these next 4 days. But just remind me, when did you come to the Isle of Man?
I came, and I honestly thought I was coming for a long weekend. It was October '84. My sister Nikki had she'd been running a couple of small places around the island, and she took the lease on what became the Bushy's Bar. At the time it was called Zhivago's, which it wasn't there very long, but it was a snapshot, and she literally asked if I'd come over for a weekend and make sandwiches for her opening party. And I'd just been working in Australia, so I had jet lag. I'd thought I'd probably be coming back and probably heading back to London to work. But anyway, I came over for that weekend, and that turned into it's next year it'll be 40 years.
Yeah,
But she asked if I could stay on for a little bit until they got on their feet, and I'd done a bit of bar work, so I didn't have anything planned, so somehow, yes,
it will be 40 years.
40 years next year, so amazing.
Now, this particular choice, the first choice, goes back even further than that, doesn't it? Talk me through it, Martin.
Well, it was when we were living in Buckinghamshire. There was and we had a youth club that we used to go to. I'd have been 10 at the time, so this was the first record I ever bought. It was number one at the time, so I know it's got a sort of strange sound to it, but it was very popular. Yep, and it's David Ansel Collins, Double Barrel.
And the magnificent. I'm back, but the shaker was so boss, most thundering, storming, sound of soul. I am W-O-O-O, and I'm still here again. Fisherman's life.
My guest on My Tunes all this week, founder of Bushy's Brewery and part-time soldier in Switzerland, as we heard yesterday, Martin Brunnschweiler. Martin, okay, had you ever even made home brew before you set up the brewery?
Yes, I had. I've done a bit of homebrew, but I have to say not very successfully. And that was when we were living in just outside Blackburn. Yeah, I was sort of a teenager. And I have to say, yes, I think it used to drive my mum mad because they used to sort of put it into these glass bottles and put it in the boiler room, which was nice and warm. And yeah, on several occasions they exploded.
Yeah,
and they shattered. There was small glass shrapnel everywhere. So yes, I'd done a little bit. And I suppose, having been a chef, I was, there are elements of cooking in brewing, so there are very similar principles. So, but when I was in London, one of the local pubs of mine around the Bayswater area was there were a group of pubs called the Firkin chain. And their selling point was they used to brew their own beer in the basement. So the Frog and Firkin was the closest pub to where I was going, and I just loved the whole concept. And it was by pure coincidence that a neighbour of ours in Blackburn was a retired brewer. He'd been brewing with Thwaites, which was our local brew, and he'd been developing a mini brewery with the students up at Lancaster University. And by coincidence, my father happened to talk to him one day. He was a neighbour, and he just sort of asked if he might have been able to help us, because I had this idea of brewing. So Peter Cole was his name, and he popped over on the ferry and had a look, and the cellars underneath the old Bushy's bar were huge. It was the old Yates's Wine Lodge. And he had a look. He said, I could set you up something very, very easily. So that was
the beginning.
That was the start, and it was one brew, Old Bushy Tale, which we still brew now, which was brewed, and it went through one pump in one bar. So we had one bar, and that's the very sort of...
What year was that?
That would have been the end of 85, and it first went on sale January 86.
Right.
It was well received, and after a while we did because that was Bushy Tale. Old Bushy Tale is a fairly strong brew, so people said it was a bit powerful. So we then changed, and we brought in a second beer with Bushy's Bitter.
Yeah.
And that was and
away you went.
That was the start.
I mean, it was a very interesting time, because I remember very much so enjoying exploring country pubs all over the place and microbreweries, and the move towards a real ale flavour and people getting more and more interested. Even if you didn't have beards, you could actually enjoy real ale again.
Definitely.
That sort of happened towards the end of the 80s particularly.
That's right. And no, as I said, I was fascinated by all that world. And I was paying attention to what was happening in America as well, because I subscribed to a couple of magazines. And it was a great time to be sort of experimenting and doing things. And it was at that time that we acquired our second pub. It was when Oakles and Castletown Brewery merged, and they put a load of pubs on the market at that time, and that's when we acquired the Albion, which became the Rovers Return. So back then it was the Albion. And it was a great time, and at that time it sort of it opened up a new market for us to be able to sell our beer, and that's when we expanded the brewery and moved out to Mount Murray, where we're at the moment.
The other day, we bumped into each other over Sunday lunch in the back end of the Falcon's Nest, and you were looking at the ceiling. Why were you looking up at the ceiling, sir?
It was quite a coincidence that we saw each other in there, because that room, well, it holds quite a few memories for me. But it's where I met my wife, Debbie, back in November '96. She was out with a group of friends. I was out with a group of friends on a birthday party, and that's where we met.
Because that back room where they do the Sunday lunch now used to be a club. Of course.
Exactly. Well, when I met Debbie, it was Talon's. Back in the day when we used to come over on holiday as youngsters, it was the Port. And I mean, again, I've got fond memories of that nightclub and disco. That's going to be the choice for my second song.
And I reckon Stu Lowe would have been something to do with the DJing down there.
Well, quite possibly, because I was introduced to Stu because my sister Nikki, she had friends who knew Stu from back in these days to Stockport, I think it was. So I'm guessing there was a very good chance Stu was working that night.
Right, let's get the glitter ball going. What's the track?
Well, to me, it still gives me goosebumps, and it reminds me of being a teenager on holiday on the Isle of Man, and it's Donna Summer, I Feel Love.
when we started this week of My Tunes, I introduced my guest, Martin Brunnschweiler, as the founder and manager of Bushy's, because a while ago you sold it.
Yes, it was about roughly about a year ago. I think it was June 22. And, we've done an amazing deal with a very nice couple from Castletown who've given us the ability. It's secured the future of our brewery. And, it's going to be a very exciting chapter.
I want to talk about the development of the whole brew, the Bushy thing, because a lot of people will know those, well, I used to have a couple of those little beer bottle wagons. And how many have you got left?
Well, we've still got 3. I've actually brought one today. I've got one. I've driven here in one of them. But my brother Andy, who it's Andy who converts them from the old 2CVs, or he did back then. He still has one over in Lancashire, so he drives around. That's badged up with Bushies. I've got the one that I drive over here, and the very first one is actually in the process of being renovated, and that's going to be in a private museum.
Oh, brilliant!
So all 3 of them are still going.
Now, quite a while ago, I had some friends who were listening to us online in Gibraltar.
Oh yeah.
And they said they've seen this little car in Gibraltar. Did you used to drive it down there?
We drove it down once, yes, you're quite right.
Yeah.
We still sell beer in Gibraltar, so now we've been selling beer just over 20 years now, a bottle beer that we sell down there. I think it was for the anniversary of Trafalgar that we drove down. It was a wonderful drive, 3 days on the road from the Isle of Man, and it was down. It was down there for a couple of years, so there's a good chance that your friends saw it while it was being driven around the Rock. And now we've made good friends in Gibraltar. It's I love the place. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think it's great fun, and the bottle car certainly turns heads.
It's a wonderful little vehicle, and if you're listening in the Wembley Bar or down in Casemate Square,
wow.
I remember you all very fondly. And there you go. Watch out for the little Citroen 2CV. So all that bodywork was done here, or
no,
where?
actually it was done in Lancashire. My brother Andy lives in Blackburn, and that's what he is a mechanic, and that's what he does. He did the bottle cars more of a bit of a project, a hobby, but no, he is a mechanic, and he trained with Citroen, so that's why he chose the 2CV.
Well, we'll have a little picture of that. I'll make sure we get a picture up and about of you and the vehicle.
Uh-huh.
I might even do a selfie. Today's tune, please, Martin. Where are we going?
Again, this is a song which it's got great memories for myself and my wife Debbie, and we saw this group locally. We've seen them on the island a couple of times, most recently at the Deep South Festival, which Chris Carr, he brings them over, and it's The Beat, Too Nice to Talk To.
Too nice to talk to. Too nice to talk to. Too nice to talk to. Too nice to talk to. Too nice to talk to. Too nice.
You can't talk to Martin Brunnschweiler, founder and manager of Bushy's, without mentioning an event that we're all saying, there you go, TT, Bushy's, the whole iconic combination of the two. But, and here's a big question, you didn't move to that villa site out of choice initially. It was a bit of a thing that was thrust upon you.
Well, it was really, as people know, when we had to vacate the old pub in Victoria Street, we'd been eyeing up the car park over the road for some time. And when I say we, it was Harry Barber. He was the manager in the pub with me at the time. And we'd done a few outside bars. We had a converted double-decker bus that we used to take round to events. So anyway, we had a look, and we had this sort of vision that we'd quite like to, once we'd had to leave the pub, to continue certainly through the TT in a mobile unit. So thankfully, the authorities at the time, a couple of very helpful policemen, which was Dudley Butt and Neil Kinraid, and there was Terry Toohey in the tourist board and David Cretney, and they all said, yep, let's give it a go for 1 year, see how it goes, you know. So it was all a bit of a gamble. But it went down well, so that would have been 98, was the first year on the Bottleneck, and we did 20 years. 17 was the last one that we did on the Bottleneck, and yeah, I mean, I understand that, you know, when things go out to tender, it goes to whoever is deemed to be the best person for the job, but it did, it shook us to our core at the time, and we were moved on. But with hindsight, the Villa Marina, moving there, was the best thing that we ever did. Things happen for a reason, and it got us out of our complacency, and we sort of just dusted ourselves off, and the Villa is a far better site than the Bottleneck ever was. We needed that push, because I think we'd have still been on the Bottleneck now had we not had to move. It's a wonderful site, and we love entertaining people there. It's got nearly 3 times the capacity.
I was going to say, is it 3 times? Yeah.
Well, it was 1,500 on the Bottleneck, and we've got 4,000 at the Villa.
And there's another great advantage: you don't stick to the grass like you used to stick to the floor in the old tent.
Exactly. Oh, I know that the tarmac was it was very hard. I mean, we tried to sort of jet wash it and everything, but for some reason,
I can't imagine why. Well, we mentioned as well that you've sold it. They've sold the Bushy's Brewery, and it's got an exciting move coming.
Well, that's right. I mean, everything's subject to planning, but no, the plan is, if everything's given the green light, that we'll be moving the brewery down to a site in Castletown, which is the old Commissioner's Yard behind S&S Motors. It's a lovely site because it includes some old buildings which would convert beautifully to a restaurant, a visitor centre, a bit of a tap room to taste the beers. It's all things, you know, that I suppose I've dreamt about things like this for years, but, you know, with our new owners, with their backing, we're able to sort of make these dreams come true. And it's a very, very exciting chapter, and it really is very exciting.
Those sort of nights, I mean, I've been to a few brewery nights when they sort of like have a club night and you gather together. I'm thinking of the one in Marlow, for example, a brewery I know very well down there, Buckinghamshire, where you used to hang out. And they have sort of, you can go down and taste what they're doing and everything. And it's a good night out, and that would be lovely to do that in Castletown, wouldn't
Exactly.
it?
No, it's that is all very much part of the plan, you know, just to expand what we already do. As I said, it's things that I dreamt of doing, but it's going to happen.
Well, here's to the future. Martin, it's been great catching up. No more national service, no more marching around. Thank you, you've done all that. Here's to the future, and thank you for some glorious years, and in all sorts of locations.
Yeah.
Martin Brunnschweiler, let's have the final track. What's it going to be?
Well, I think we had to have one that's TT related, and it's a chap who I've known quite well over the years. It's Steve Gibbons, Tulane.
Beautiful choice. Cracking week. Thank you.
Thank you.
You gonna speak
What a track. Steve Gibbons, Tulane, a TT classic for sure. Martin Brunnschweiler, thank you so much for being my MyTunes guest this week, and all the best for the future. And thanks to you for dropping by for another MyTunes podcast. I'm Marc Tyley. Join me when you can, 9:30 to 12, for The Morning Show, right here on Manx Radio.